how do we really get a handle on civilization? I mean, is it just about memorizing dates and, dry facts? Or do we get closer to the truth through the stories of the people involved, their huge successes, and, let's be honest, their big, sometimes tragic, failures? It makes you think, doesn't it, about how powerful stories are in history. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take sources you're curious about and really explore the knowledge and insights hidden inside. Today we're looking at a really significant book you asked about, Heroes of History, a brief history of civilization from ancient times to the dawn of the modern age by the legendary Will Durant. And we're not just going to summarize what he wrote. We want to dig into how he put this narrative together so effectively, how he manages to teach and inspire.
And just so you know, you're experiencing a unique kind of conversation here. We're actually using Google's NotebookLM, an AI tool that helps us connect ideas across the text, spot themes, and really get into some deeper analysis together. It lets us have a more dynamic chat about Durant's work.
Right. And when you read Heroes of History, you're dealing with someone who carries a lot of weight. Will Durant, he was this major historian, a philosopher too, really admired for taking these huge, sprawling historical stories and making them, understandable, accessible.
Yeah, his credibility, his ethos, you could say, was already rock solid. Think about the story of philosophy or his massive work, the story of civilization. People knew his reputation.
Absolutely. You feel like you're in good hands from page one.
Definitely. And this book, Heroes of History, it came later, late 20th century. It was essentially him condensing all that knowledge for just general readers.
Okay, so not necessarily for academics.
No, not primarily. The context was, historical knowledge felt kind of scattered for a lot of people, bits and pieces here and there. Durant wanted to offer a single connected story. So yeah, the main audience was educated folks, people curious about the big picture of civilization, and maybe students, lifelong learners too, especially if they like the philosophical side of things.
So let's dive into the book itself, the craft behind it. When you start reading, what really jumps out about Durant's mission? What's he trying to do besides just telling us what happened?
Well, I think his purpose is really two things. Inform, obviously, but also to inspire. He doesn't just want to give you a timeline. He wants to get into the ideas, the big achievements, and the failures, too, of these key people and whole civilizations.
It's about connecting emotionally.
Exactly. He wants you to connect with these heroes from the past, to think about the patterns, why things rise, why they fall. It's less about just facts and more about maybe wisdom.
And the subject matter is ambitious, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. Civilization's development, basically from ancient Sumer right up to the edge of the modern world. It's huge.
Right.
But what's really interesting are the themes he keeps coming back to, like how ideas travel, how things like writing or printing just fundamentally changed everything.
Right.
And he looks really closely at leaders, their strengths, their weaknesses, how one person can really shift the direction of history for better or worse.
And you mentioned rise and fall.
Yeah, that cyclical nature of civilizations, that's a huge theme. He often points out how, say, moral problems inside a society might show up before it actually collapses militarily or economically.
Yeah.
You see that pattern from Rome onwards.
That sounds potentially quite heavy, talking about decline and collapse. But the book doesn't feel heavy. It feels engaging. How does he manage the tone? I definitely got that sense of respect, almost reverence for the past.
You nailed it. The tone is this really interesting mix. There's definitely reverence, admiration, but also this sort of reflective, philosophical wisdom woven in. It's articulate, respectful, sometimes maybe a bit sad, or elegiac is the word, when he talks about lost eras.
Like lost knowledge, perhaps.
Exactly, like the libraries of Alexandria, that kind of thing. But crucially, he's never lecturing. He's not pedantic. It feels more like he's inviting you to appreciate the successes and the complexities, like a wise guide walking alongside you.
So why this specific book, then? What was the spark, the exigence, as rhetoricians call it? What need did he see, and what were the challenges?
Well, the need, the exigence, was probably this feeling that knowledge was getting too split up, too specialized. He saw a need for a big picture story, something unifying, and he really believed history had lessons, moral, philosophical lessons for people living now, if someone could just lay them out clearly.
Makes sense.
And the constraints.
The biggest one is obvious. You just have to simplify when you're covering that much history. How do you decide what to include, what to leave out? How do you keep it broad but still give it enough depth? That's a massive balancing act for any historian, a huge editorial challenge.
Okay, understanding why he wrote it and the hurdles he faced makes how he did it even more impressive. So let's get into those rhetorical tools. How does he build that trust, that ethos, with us as readers.
He does it really skillfully. It's not just his reputation, though, that helps. It's his commitment to, well, trying to be balanced. He points to his sources, which signals rigor right away.
Yeah, you notice that. And he's also pretty honest when the historical record is fuzzy. He'll say, we're not entirely sure here, or interpretations differ. He respects different cultures, different viewpoints, even ones very different from his own era. The style feels authoritative, but also kind of humble at the same time.
So it makes you feel like you can rely on his perspective.
Exactly. And that's important for you, the reader, because you feel you're getting more than just a story. You're getting a well-reasoned take on what shapes civilization, delivered by someone trustworthy.
Okay, what about pathos, the emotional side? How does he make someone like Julius Caesar, who lived millennia ago, feel relevant or even, exciting?
That's where his storytelling really comes alive. He paints these incredibly vivid pictures of people. Socrates, Buddha, Confucius, Caesar, you mentioned. They're not just names on a page. They feel like real, complex individuals.
Yeah, I felt that.
He uses evocative language to show you societies at their peak, but also during their collapse. You actually start to feel the weight of those moments. With Caesar, for example, he doesn't just list battles. He gets into Caesar's ambition, the complexities, the human cost of building an empire. That's a theme Durant often explores.
So he connects with you on that human level.
Right. He informs, but he also moves you. He makes these distant figures relatable, making world history feel important across time and culture.
So he grabs our hearts, but he also engages our minds. Let's talk logos, the logic. How does he structure his arguments? How does he make his points stick?
His arguments are usually very carefully put together. You often see clear cause and effect chains or detailed analysis, maybe comparing one situation to another. Or sometimes it's just the sheer force of the narrative logic pulling you along.
And the evidence.
He pulls from everywhere. Literature, archaeology, philosophy, primary accounts. Like when he discusses the Renaissance, he doesn't just name artists. He connects the art explosion to the economic growth that came before it and the shift towards humanism in philosophy. See? It's a logical chain. He uses all this evidence to build a really solid case for why certain events or people had such a lasting impact.
It definitely sounds like he had a full toolbox. Let's look closer at that artistic side. His language, his style. What about his word choice, his diction? How does that work?
The diction is, it's formal, but it doesn't feel cold or distant. He picks words very deliberately to give the topic a certain weight, a dignity. But he's also great at making abstract ideas feel real using specific examples.
Can you give an example?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like when describing Rome's fall, he won't just say it collapsed. He'll use words that suggest a slow crumbling, a gradual decay, painting this picture of society unraveling. It avoids that dry academic feel, but still sounds intelligent.
And sentence structure, syntax. Does he mix it up?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He varies sentence length quite a bit, which keeps the rhythm interesting. You get these short, sharp sentences for emphasis, bam, makes a point stick. Then you'll get these longer, flowing sentences that kind of sweep you along with the grand narrative. Maybe when he's describing a vast empire or the spread of an idea, it stops it from getting dull.
What about things like metaphors or analogies? Does he use those to explain tricky concepts?
All the time. He uses metaphors. The famous one is the river of civilization to help you visualize these big, complex processes. It helps you see history as this continuous flow, always changing.
Right, not just static events.
Exactly. And he uses analogies, comparisons, references to things we might recognize to make the history feel more universal, more relevant to us now. He might connect a historical figure's problem to a timeless human issue. It helps bridge the gap between then and now.
Okay, moving beyond the words themselves, what about how the whole book is put together, its structure?
Well, it's mostly chronological, which makes sense. You move through time. But he does these really smart thematic side trips. So you'll be in ancient Greece, and he'll pause to really dig into the philosophy or the art of that specific time, giving you a richer picture.
So it's not just a straight march through dates.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And he uses repetition cleverly, too. Certain ideas keep popping up, rise and fall. What makes a hero? Moral questions. These act like signposts, guiding you through all the information and highlighting the big patterns.
And contrast. Does he put things side by side?
Yes, juxtaposition and contrast are key. He'll compare different civilizations, maybe Sparta versus Athens, to show different ways of organizing society. Or he'll contrast the good and bad sides of a leader. It really makes the lesson stand out.
That's interesting. One thing I noticed was how he almost pulls you into the conversation. Does he use specific tricks for that?
He does. Rhetorical questions are a big one. He'll pose things like, what is civilization if not the sum of its heroes and lessons? He's not just telling you, he's inviting you to think about it, to wrestle with these big ideas yourself.
Yeah, it makes you pause and consider.
Right, and he sprinkles in references to other fields, scripture, philosophy, literature. Plus, there's often a subtle wit, a bit of humor even, in how he describes people. It makes them feel human, adds warmth. What's really powerful about all these detailed rhetorical moves isn't just about passing on facts. It's about getting us to reflect thoughtfully on what history can teach us. And that idea, inspiring reflection through careful analysis, that's really what we try to do on Mindful Moments, our YouTube channel. We take complex stuff and try to make it engaging, sparking that kind of deeper thought, much like Durant does with history.
That's a really good point. It brings us to evaluating Durant's overall achievement. How well does the book actually work? Is it right for the audience he was aiming for?
Oh, I think it's incredibly effective. The language, the way it's structured, the tone, it all feels perfectly tuned for that broad, educated readership. It's not so simple that it feels dumbed down, but it's not so dense that you get lost. He hits that sweet spot.
And logically. Covering so much history, does it hang together well?
For the most part, yes. His arguments, sometimes they're interpretive history, often is, but they generally flow logically. He connects different eras and events coherently. That idea about internal decay preceding collapse, for instance, he traces that thread through multiple examples, building a pretty convincing case.
What about backing up his claims? Does he provide enough evidence without making it feel like a textbook?
Yeah, the support's definitely there. Lots of quotes, summaries of sources. It boosts his credibility, but it doesn't swamp the story. His conclusions about cause and effect, about the patterns he sees, they feel well argued. And importantly, he usually signals when he's speculating versus stating fact. That shows real intellectual honesty. He lets you know where the solid ground ends.
Okay, so wrapping this up, it feels like Durant masterfully combines storytelling with argument ethos, pathos, logos to do more than just teach. He genuinely inspires.
Exactly. He frames civilization as this ongoing collective story. It's shaped by individuals, yes, but also by these larger cultural forces. All his choices, the vivid characters, the recurring themes, they manage to connect serious history with a wider audience. Heroes of History really is a masterclass in persuasive historical writing.
And for anyone listening today, it still feels like such a valuable resource if you want to not just know about world history, but really feel it, understand how it was shaped by these pivotal figures. It's more than just a history book. It's a really thoughtful piece of communication.
Absolutely. And as we finish our look at Heroes of History, Durant's work kind of leaves us with a lingering thought, doesn't it? If history is shaped by its heroes, maybe we should ask, who are the less obvious heroes of our own time? Whose actions today might shape the story told tomorrow? Something to reflect on.
That's a great question to leave people with. And if you enjoyed this kind of deep dive and want more analysis that sparks critical thinking, definitely check out Mindful Moments on YouTube and, of course, our podcasts. We're always exploring ways to make complex ideas clear and engaging. Click the link on screen for the summary. Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and think critically.